Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
From automated assembly lines to smart factories, manufacturing is going digital and fast. If you want to stay relevant, you need the right tech skills. CBT Nuggets helps you get there with practical, easy-to-follow IT training. Build in-demand skills in networking, cybersecurity, and system automation without investing in costly hardware or struggling with complicated setups. Our short, engaging videos and hands-on virtual labs make learning simple and effective. Whether you're a technician on the floor, a manager leading teams, or an engineer optimizing systems, CBT Nuggets fits your schedule and meets you where you are. Train at your own pace from any device, wherever it works for you. And with new content added regularly, there's always something relevant to learn. Join thousands of professionals who are leveling up their careers with CBT Nuggets. Right now, you can start a 7-day free trial and explore everything we offer, no commitment required. Go to cbtnuggets.com today. Because in modern manufacturing, better tech skills mean better opportunities.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined by Bob Phelan. Our co-host Nick Stevens is out this week. On tonight's show, we're going to break down some injury news as Pat Reilly underwent Tommy John surgery last week. It's not all bad, though, on the pitching front because Trey Gibson has continued to improve gradually over the course of the 2025 season and is really starting to make a case that after Nestor recently made the jump to AA, that he should be next in line. So we'll get into that on tonight's show, but I'll start, Bob, just some reflection on our conversation with Steve Molesky earlier this week, reacting to the news of Brandon Hyde's dismissal as Orioles manager. What were your thoughts on Steve's reaction to that and on our conversation with him?
No, yeah, I thought it was a good processing moment for us, or me especially. But yeah, I liked what Steve had to say. Obviously, he's interacted with Brandon Hyde a lot more. I completely understand the personal connection there. Hey, yeah, it sucks. It sucks for everybody involved. But I thought Steve had some good things to say, and I agree with him. The window is not closed, not by a long shot, but doesn't make it any less disappointing.
Absolutely. And if you've not had a chance to listen to that interview yet, be sure to check that out. And next week, our plan is when we have Nick back on the air, we're going to talk a little bit more about Mike Elias and his whole process. In fact, that was initially what we were going to talk about in this show, but we wanted to hold off on that until all three of us can be on the air. It gives us more time to discuss what is going on in the minor leagues. And the Orioles did get some bad but not unexpected news last week when Patrick Reilly underwent Tommy John surgery. So Reilly had been at AA Chesapeake's rotation beginning of this year, put together back-to-back nice starts to begin the season, but then lasted just one inning in his start at Richmond on April 19th. It was reported at the time that he had forearm issues, and although it did not become official until last week, and in fact, there was very little information out there until last week, we know that when issues with the elbow or the forearm come up, that there's always the possibility of Tommy John surgery, and that is indeed what happened with Reilly. And Reilly, just to give a little bit of background for listeners that don't know or need to be reminded of this, he was drafted by the Pirates in the 5th round out of Vanderbilt in the 2023 draft, and then came over to the Orioles last year in the trade that sent Billy Cook to the Pirates, a rare prospect for prospect deal that had been working out very well for the Orioles up to this point because Reilly pitched well at AA to end last season and came into this year as one of the organization's top pitching prospects and showed that in the very short time before the injury. So Bob, it's disappointing. It goes without words to say that, but what is your reaction to this news?
Yeah, it's like you say. I mean, it just sucks. We knew pretty quickly that once we heard it was forearm and then there was radio silence, it's like, okay, just waiting, counting down the days till we heard the news. And then obviously we did. Yeah, I don't know. It's just part of the game at this point. Like it sucks. It's disappointing, but at the same time, hey, we'll see him second half of 2026 and hopefully he can get right for the 2027 season. He'll start in AAA Norfolk and continue his development. I don't think it's a death sentence. Yeah, obviously, it sucks because this is the year of the pitcher injury. Last year was the year of the pitcher. This is the year of the pitcher injury. But yeah, it's unfortunate because I really liked what we were seeing from him post trade and especially to start off this year. So yeah, hopefully has a successful surgery and can get back as soon as possible and back on the mound.
It's worth pointing out that Reilly came into the season age 23. He'll turn 24 in October. So this is not a guy that's 26, 27 years old having this injury. There is still plenty of time for him to turn around. You just have to hope that it will go as smoothly as it can. We know sometimes it's Tommy John surgery. It doesn't always work out that way. John Means being an example of the worst case scenario, but the Orioles did get Felix Bautista back from injury. From what we know so far, everything in Kyle Radis' rehab is going okay. So hopefully it's going to be a smooth or as smooth a rehab process as you can get for Reilly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Edgar Portes, I think, has also been ruled out for the season, which maybe that explains his struggles this year. Maybe that has something to do with it, but unfortunate for a guy that we really liked all the way through last year.
Yeah, Portes, more tough injury news there for Chesapeake. And we don't know what Portes' injury is at this point. That roster move was announced on Monday. And just to give some background on Portes so far this season, the numbers had been pretty disappointing. And after basically being stretched out as a starter for the last few years, he was in a lot of short relief outings. And he was struggling in those short relief outings. And I was hoping that maybe he would either adapt to that routine or that this was just the Orioles' way of trying to build him up early in the year when they had a lot of arms down at AA. But he never could quite get it going before the injury.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I thought he piggybacked Cameron Weston a lot early on last year in Aberdeen before Weston got promoted to AA. And also just real quick shout out to Cameron Weston, who's looked really, really good his last couple times out for Norfolk. So there were times when I'm like, dang, Portes looks just as good as Weston stuff wise. Obviously it didn't translate to AA, but there's a lot of reasons that could have been. It's just, that's the prospect game. It's boom or bust.
Well, and I will say that it feels like Chesapeake has been especially unlucky with injuries early in the year because they lose arguably their best position player in Enrique Bradfield Jr. I don't even know that's arguable best position player. Reilly goes down with an injury. Alex Pham goes down with an injury. We still don't know the extent of Pham's injury yet. But as we just talked about here, Portes goes down with an injury. Zach Fruit is out with what is not expected to be a long-term injury, but again, a bit of a setback for their pitching staff when Fruit was one of the guys that they were counting on to really take a big step forward this year. Yet,
and Levi
somehow the Bay Sox play pretty competitive baseball most nights. It almost feels like all the stuff that is not working for the Orioles has somehow worked for Chesapeake this year. A pitcher will come up from Aberdeen and at least hold their own, or in the case of Braxton Bragg, dominate. And while this is not the strongest lineup by a long shot in the Orioles system, they're at least in the game most nights. And Creed Willems is having the best season of his career so far.
Oh, yeah, easily. I think his stock, I feel like it's underrated how much he's improved his stock, getting those strikeouts down, mostly because the lineup as a whole, like you said, it's pretty anemic. But again, the pitching depth in this organization is so strong that they're just able to pull guys up at will and stay in games, like you said. So, yeah, it's been fun to watch, even though, the injuries have ravaged them as well.
Yeah, and we're hoping that Bradfield, we're recording this on Monday night, but we're hoping to see Bradfield perhaps back with the Bay Sox this week, and if
I
not,
would expect
in the
so.
very near future. Yeah, because he's already started his rehab assignment.
Yeah, he got a full week in Aberdeen last week. So I would imagine I was away. I was doing something other than watching baseball on Sunday. So I only saw that he had 2 at-bats and then was replaced in the game. And I was like, uh-oh. He got ejected for arguing balls and strikes. So I think he'll be fine. And yeah, I think he'll be back in AA Bowie as soon as tomorrow, I would imagine.
I got to give a guy credit for carrying that much on a rehab assignment.
Right?
He's going to get called,
Yeah.
get ejected for arguing balls and strikes.
Yeah, seriously. that is I do love the fire he brings to the game. And honestly, that might be something the Orioles clubhouse could use as soon as next year.
Yeah, well, and I'm really hoping that Bradfield hits the ground running when he gets back from this injury. And speaking of Aberdeen, talk about Trey Gibson for a moment. Gibson put together the best start of his season last week at Hudson Valley, going 5 1/3 innings, giving up just 1 run on 3 hits with 10 strikeouts against 1 walk. Gibson, if you look at his numbers, there's a lot of things you can quibble with, and I talked about this recently. The walk rate is a little bit high. The ERA has come down some, but still sitting at 5.46%. Yet it seems like he's done a better job in his last few starts at limiting the damage, as in his last 3 appearances, with last week's start included, he has struck out 25 batters while walking to 7 in 14 innings. A lot of Gibson's season so far has been bad luck on batted ball. That has been a real struggle for him this year. But as he flashed last week, when he's on, he has some of the best swing and miss stuff in this organization.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I watched the vast majority of his start that you're talking about there. I turned it off after 5 innings. I didn't know he was going to go back out there, which I like to see that they were pushing him a little bit more. And then he gave up a home run and then struck out somebody else after that. But yeah, like you said, he's pitched much better than the numbers indicate. The fact that he's striking out 35.6% of batters and walking a little bit less than 10%. His ERA is 5.46, but his xFIP is 2.89. His home run to fly ball ratio is 31.6, and that's just frankly insane. That's outside of a pitcher's control. That's like more than double what is high for a pitcher. So yeah, he looked outstanding in that game that he just pitched in that I watched. He was just landing the breaking ball at the top of the zone all night. Hitters couldn't touch it. And then of course he's flashing 95 about on the fastball as well. I was incredibly impressed, as I was with Nestor Erman, who we'll talk about, as I was with Braxton Bragg this entire year. Like it's been a joy to watch these guys. And that's even with a bunch of guys that we haven't been able to watch, like Luis De Leon. Hopefully he's back. I mean, he's rehabbing with Delmarva, but hopefully he gets a chance to pitch in Bowie this year too. But Gibson, yeah, I think it's easy to forget that. Well, maybe it's not so easy for us to forget, but for like guys that are just like scout or fans that are scouting the stat lines and the box scores, he missed an entire season because he was suspended at Liberty. So, that's going to put who knows why, but that's going to put a dent in your development a little bit. And the fact that he's been able to catch up to speed this quickly is frankly incredibly impressive. So yeah, he's definitely moving up my list.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
If you go back to the beginning of this season when the opening day rosters were announced, it looked like that Aberdeen had at least 3 pitchers, and it really turned out to be 4 with Braxton Bragg. But it looked like Aberdeen had at least 3 pitchers that were going to make an early case for a jump to AA. And it was Gibson, Michael Ferret, and Herman. Herman beat both of those guys there. But it feels like with Gibson, it's just kind of a matter of time now, just so that these improvements you made over your last couple of starts are sustainable. And then he could be there. Ferret is out right now as an injury, but that's not expected to be a long-term thing. And I think that with the way he was going before the injury stint, it might have been him and not Herman that went to AA last week. So there's a lot of progress in this area of pitching development.
Yeah, I could easily see Ferret being the move if he didn't go down with that. Hopefully, what we suspect is a minor injury, and hopefully he gets back soon, and him and Gibson can compete to be the next guy to go up, because Cohen Aiken's right in that mix too. He's already been up and had some success at AA. So yeah, it's just really fun right now at that level, high A, AA of starting pitching prospects. And Levi Wells is going to miss a little bit of time with an abdomen issue. Doesn't seem like it's anything major at all, but he only pitched one inning over the weekend. So could be another opportunity for somebody. And yeah, once these guys start getting to AA like Herman and having the success that him and Bragg have had, that's when you really get on a broader radar of prospect hounds, Baseball America, Pipeline, etc. So once these guys start getting to AA, don't be surprised if they start getting mentioned in top 100 prospect lists very soon.
That's a good point. And I'll go now to Herman, who made his debut at Chesapeake last week. In a start against Akron, he earned a win, his first of the season, by throwing 5 2/3 shutout innings, scattering 4 hits, striking out 6, and walking 2. With that start included, Herman has now struck out 43 batters over 30 2/3 innings pitched this season with 12 walks. But of those 12 walks, half of them came over his first 2 starts in Aberdeen back in April. So he continues what has been an absolutely dominant year for him. Now, I know we talked about him a lot last week when we had John Mioli on, but Bob, what are your thoughts on Herman's AA debut?
I loved it. Yeah. I, for some reason, wasn't able to stream it on Bailey Sports. That's why I watched most of the Trey Gibson start, but I did go back and watch highlights at least. And yeah, he's just fun to watch. He's not as boring as some guys are on the field. Like, he's slinging the ball. He's fun to watch pitch, period. And I think maybe the first couple games of the season, maybe the cold weather, he wasn't able to get the grip on the ball. But ever since then, like you said, it's been vintage Herman that he showed us last year. And we definitely knew who he was well before last year. He didn't come out of nowhere. But yeah, one of my favorite pitching prospects in the system. I think it's between him and Braxton Bragg right now. They're just going to be so much fun to watch the rest of this year in AA. I loved it. He's getting strikeouts. He's getting weak contact. It's just, he knows how to pitch, plain and simple.
Absolutely. And with that, now we will go into our final segment of the night. Last Call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Canham Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre or post game drink. And when you're at the game this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate to get one of Checker Spot's signature beers. The Bird is the Word. And in this segment, Bob and I are going to do the normal shout out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 prospects list for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line. And one thing that I think we're going to be talking about in the near future, or very near future in more depth, is how good the FCL Orioles have looked over the first couple of weeks of the season on both sides of the ball. But we are going to touch on that a little bit here because there's some guys on that roster that are going to get shout-outs in this segment. I'll start with Bob because his position player, I think, is a guy that we were very excited to see coming into this year. And his pitcher is someone on that FCL pitching staff that's making a name for himself early in this season.
Yeah, for my hitter, I had to go with Nate George because he is just destroying FCL pitchers, and he's not even 19 years old yet. He turns 19 a little bit over 2 weeks, and I'm kind of curious if he's going to make it up to Delmarva before he turns 19 in a little over 2 weeks because, my goodness, he's batting .385 with an 1138 OPS. And is this before today's? Yeah, this is before today's game. So he went 3 for 4 with a walk in his third home run today. So before that, already he was batting .385 with a 1138 OPS, 201 WRC plus, 269 ISO, 15.6% walk rate, 18.8% strikeout rate. This kid is 18 years old. We heard the hype from Matt Blood coming into the season, and he's lived up to it and then some. He also has, I think he had 2 more stolen bases today, so 5 stolen bases. Just doing everything. And yeah, the BABIP is high, but it's even with, if you took that away, he's just been absolutely phenomenal. And this is a guy that was a 16th round pick, signed for $455,000 out of Manuka Community High School. So what a find by the Orioles here. I think this kid is going to get on the radar very soon. And like I said, I think he will be up helping Delmarva sooner rather than later. And then my pitcher is Jesus Palacios, who is a right-handed pitcher, 20 years old, just turned 20 in March, 6'2". He had an incredible 2023 down in the DSL, over a little over 50 innings. He had a 1.95 ERA, 2.68 FIP, struck out 28.8% of batters, only walked 6.3%. And then last year he went up to the FCL and only pitched 28 innings, had a 5.08 ERA, was striking out more batters, but walking a lot more. And this year, repeating the FCL in his first 10.2 innings, he's got a 4.22 ERA, but he's striking out a ridiculous 40.7% of batters, which is 22 batters in 10 2/3 innings. He has walked 9 batters, but if you're striking out that many, that kind of negates it. And I do think he's going to be one of, if not the breakout pitcher on the international side coming from the FCL, get to Delmarva, just continue to improve throughout the season. Yeah, special arm from him and a bunch of the other guys down in the FCL, which I'm sure we'll shout out at some point during the season. But today it's Jesus Palacios time.
Yeah, and I think one thing we saw last year with this shift in the FCL schedule, where their season starts earlier now, and Delmarva, I think, will still have about a month left when the FCL wraps up. Ibra Cartaya, Killer Morphe got the bump to Delmarva late last season. I think that Palacios could be a guy that gets the same treatment if he continues to pitch well this year. I'm going to stick in the FCL for my hitter, and that is Andrew Tess. Tess had a very hot start to the season. He cooled off a little bit last week, but the numbers overall are still impressive. With Monday's game included, he's hitting .296 as of this recording with an .842 OPS, and most impressively, 7 walks to 6 strikeouts. So one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show is that at the short season levels for hitters, we like to look at the walk to strikeout numbers because that's an indicator of a lot of things. It's an indicator of their pitch recognition, their ability to judge the strike zone, their ability to not chase, which you're going to be doing a lot of in short season ball if you're aggressive. So to see Tess showing that level of plate discipline is very encouraging. And Tess, by the way, 12th round pick for the Orioles out of Calvary Christian High School in Clearwater, Florida in last year's draft. There was a little bit of buzz surrounding him coming into this year and the early goings of this season show why that's the case. And for my pitcher, I'm going to go up to Aberdeen. Carter Baumler is back from injury, and it has been a struggle throughout Baumler's professional career to stay healthy. That is very well documented at this point, but nonetheless, it was nice to see him have a really good week for the Ironbirds. He got 2 appearances in their series against Hudson Valley. The first of those was 2 scoreless innings, the strikeout, no hits, no walks. He was credited with a save in that game, the second game of a doubleheader, and then pitched 3 days later and delivered a scoreless inning out of the bullpen. I'm guessing that role is a sign of what is to come for Baumler, which is that he's going to be out of the bullpen, probably 1 or 2 inning appearances. But for someone who's still just 23, you just want to see him stay healthy, show what he can do over an extended run, and hopefully we get that here over the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. He still has the same stuff that he came up with, so just a matter of staying healthy. I like it Hunter Harvey style. Just get him in shorter stints. Maybe he can go up the system faster at his age, and until his arm implodes, you can try to get as much out of him as possible. Rooting for the kid, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And with that does it for this week's show. We will be back, all 3 of us, next week to break down the latest news in Birdland. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Substack, and Twitch. We are at Substack at OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon, sign up to become a member of our community today. You can join for as little as $3 a month as a paying member and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. And it is worth noting that June update is not too far away. We're less than 2 weeks away from when we're going to take another look at our top 50. We already know that we're going to have at least one notable change because Kobe Mayo has graduated since our last list was complete. So there's a spot opening up there, but in what has been an interesting month of May, some players are making cases to rise up the list. So you're not going to want to miss that when we drop that on Patreon in a few weeks. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.